Is there a doctor in the house?
Doctor, you have a visitor in the main lobby.
Hey, welcome back to Talk To The Doc, the show where we explore the real-world challenges and insights behind leading, growing, and scaling a successful business, with technology as your partner, not your pain point. I'm your host, Steve, the Dr. Meek, and today we're tackling a topic that every organization, SMB owner thinks they understand, sales, but maybe you don't understand it enough. Today, our guest is Joe English, a seasoned sales leader with decades of experience, growing revenue at both large enterprises and nimble SMBs. Joe's not just about talk, he's about process. I love it. And when it comes to building sales teams that win, he brings the playbook, the people focus, and the mindset to make it happen. Let's get into it. Welcome, Joe. How are you doing today?
Well, Steve, it's great to be on with the doc, man. I feel honored and more than excited to share, hopefully, some nuggets with your audience.
Well, hey, the pleasure's all on this side of the mic, so I'm with you. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Joe.
Yeah, so, Joe English. I am a native Texan, traveled around a bit, lived in a few other spots, but I grew up in and around the Dallas area. Born in Dallas, grew up in Mesquite, actually. Went to school here up until college, went away for school, went away for work, grad school, and found my way into sales unexpectedly, not what I had planned for my life or career. I don't think anybody says, hey, I want to be in sales.
Right.
Maybe now, but when in our age, I don't think that was a real thought. And
no one dressed up with little sales outfits as kids.
Yeah, exactly. So, it just worked out that way, and had the great fortune to have some amazing training and experiences throughout the years, and, love the opportunity now to be able to share what I've learned in my corporate career as a consultant with small to mid-sized businesses and helping them leverage best practices. And I get a lot more joy out of this aspect of my professional life than I did, even though I had a really good run in corporate, plenty of successes. This is just a lot more rewarding to me because I kind of get to coach people more so and see them develop. And it's a blast. Love it every day. I get to geek out on sales, which most people don't, and help them figure out how to grow their businesses. So it's a ton of fun.
You sound like a proud papa.
Yeah, I am that as well. And so, the whole coaching thing is fun. So you and I both share a little bit of a passion for sports. And, I competed in sports through college. And I love that aspect of coaching. I appreciated being coached and getting better. And so I love to do that. I did that with all three of my kids through youth sports and into their careers with paid coaches, not volunteer coaches like me. Right. But it is. So I love, to your point, being a proud papa and watching people, grow and excel and succeed every day. So
that's awesome. I love it. Well, let's go ahead and get going. And one of the things I like to do, just like a real physician's appointment, I like to take some vitals. So give me the pulse of things, from kind of the current state of the market. What's the pulse you feel is out there?
Well, I think in general, we happen to be in what I consider the best market in the country, right? DFW is a awesome market in North Texas in general. And so business is good. Just don't watch the news would be my recommendation to people. Right. Because if you turn around, business is still transacting. More specifically on the sales side, one of the things that we see both in terms of talking to people independently, but also via our affiliation with Sales Acceleration, which is a larger IP organization around sales advisory.
Okay.
You would be shocked at how few companies leverage a playbook. And I know because as the doc, you are very process and list driven. Shocked at how few companies, especially in the SMB space, actually have a playbook to direct them in what they need to do from a sales perspective. It's kind of eye-opening, to say the least. like 98% of people don't leverage a playbook, which is really
Wow.
crazy to me.
That is kind of a shocking number for things. What about, for the playbook? You say that most organizations don't have it. Is there a reason for that?
I think, this is Joe's opinion, so not anybody else's opinion, but
Joe knows, Joe knows things.
I have a penchant for, weird information in my brain that doesn't necessarily apply to everything else in life. But I would tell you that I think most people feel like sales is this kind of nebulous thing, like, hey, let's go hire people, salespeople who just have these great A-type personalities and can go talk to people and bring in business.
Sure.
And that's about as much as they think about sales. And as you and I both know, there's a little bit more to it than that. They don't treat it as a process. And sales is absolutely a process and requires systems thinking, just like any other functional area of a business, right?
Sure.
You certainly couldn't survive as an MSP in the IT world without very defined processes. And I would tell you that the same is true for sales. I just don't think that most people think of it that way.
Sure. It's a kind of a winging it kind of approach.
Yeah.
So let's get into the next statistic, heart rate. To me, heart rate is, just kind of trying to understand, the performance metrics that tell the story for you right now. In this economy, in this world, in the current state, what do you feel the heart rate is? Yeah,
I would tell you that, and I don't even remember exactly. I think I shared a data point with you previously that so I'm not reading off notes. I don't have it up in front of me, but that's another one of those mind-numbing things that most people don't actually leverage good data in their business around, especially sales and growth and customer interactions. So, let me give you 4 really high-level pulse rate type things. So if you thought about, if you go to the doctor, you're going to get your heart rate and your blood pressure, just kind of every single check-in, right? No matter what.
Sure.
And here's a few stats that kind of shock me through Sales Acceleration. We do an annual survey. And if you thought about sales strategy, 85% of the small businesses that we polled, and that's roughly 5,000. It's over 4,800 small businesses with one key leader per business, right? So very good survey data. 85% rate themselves poor or below average on sales strategy, and 95% poor or below average on sales methodology, meaning things like their process and leveraging CRM and forecasting. So that's kind of that heartbeat, right? You need to know what your data is in order to be able to predict what you're going to do business-wise. And businesses rate themselves at 95% poor in that category, which is another one of those kind of eye-popping statistics that just makes me want to help more people, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm sure at a certain point, it's almost like magic. It's not. People don't see it as a discipline. People don't see the structure, the science behind it. They kind of go into it, and it's just something they kind of wind their way through. As it's kind of a journey. In some cases, I see technology a little bit that way. That so many people just see technology, computers, as, hey, you just set something up and it works, and then you keep doing things and it eventually gets better. And they don't have a structure to it. They don't have a process. They don't follow a framework. And I think that's probably a challenge with pretty much every discipline in the world of business, is not understanding the process or the structure behind things, and just taking the best information you have and kind of winging it.
Yeah, so you're speaking our language, right? So Chris Goad, our one of our co-founders, he and I do a lot of client work together, and exactly to where you started that statement, silver bullet, right? They think there's a silver bullet. There's not, because quite frankly, if there was a silver bullet, you and I would be on an island sipping cocktails with umbrellas in them and not working anymore. Right. It's work. Right? There's work. There's steps that have to take place in the proper order for things to go the way you want them to go. And I just think it gets overlooked most of the time.
So in your work, how do you help organizations get started on that journey?
Well, great question. So we have a proven process. I'm a believer that most good businesses do have a proven process around how they approach and engage the work that they do, either internally as a manufacturer or on behalf of clients as professional service providers, et cetera. And for us, we have what we call a phase one, phase two approach that the majority of the time we will meet clients where they are and do things a little bit differently if that's necessary. But most of our clients, over 70%, see a phase one, phase two. And phase one is a diagnostics or an assessment, right? Okay. So think about going to see the doctor, right? What's the first thing that the doctor does when you go in to see him, right? They do a history, kind of like you were just doing, right? They go through this process of asking really good questions to try to uncover not just pains, but the problems and the root causes behind those pains. And we do the same thing. So we will investigate with a client through a discovery process and try to understand, hey, what's going on and can we help? And if the answer is yes, and we engage, we want to double down on that. Almost like taking your car into the shop. They don't just get a toolbox and start working. They plug it into the computer and they run a diagnostic and they get those trouble codes and they try to narrow down their focus as to what do they need to work on in order to then get the toolbox out and start working. So we do the same thing. And then from there, once we've understood everything, then we would start to work on the what we consider four foundational pillars for any good sales system. And that's go-to-market strategy, people, organization, sales process, of which to us, it's a little more complicated than just a sales funnel. There's a little bit more to it than that. And then lastly, kind of the straw that stirs the drink, so to speak, is the execution component. Tools, meetings, management, reporting, dashboards, metrics, all those things that tie those first three pillars together and help you execute over time. And so working with small businesses to really nail those four pillars is our proven process. And then hopefully graduate them onto future success and profitable revenue growth over time from there so they can scale their business the way they desire.
Wait, you said profitable as well? Wow. You just do it all, don't you?
So not only do I know how to spell EBITDA, I actually know what it means and I can read a financial. So we don't believe that growth for the sake of growth is the answer, right? You want growth in most businesses, but you want profitable growth. And quite frankly, we've had clients where pulling back revenue in order to generate much more margin was the right answer. So we've actually contracted a few of our clients, but only to the point of getting them where they wanted to be, which was putting more money in the bank, right? So that they were at a much, much higher margin business, which increased the value of their business, even though their overall revenue declined because they got rid of bad business.
So can you talk about that a little bit? What was your approach to that? I mean, how do you go to an organization and say, or what makes you go to an organization and say, hey, whoa, we need to sell less or we need to do something different?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things we all talk about is differentiation in our business, and we want to understand that. And so to give you an idea of what differentiates 360 from most consultancies, in my corporate life, I've worked with most of the big boys, right? McKinsey, Bain, Boston Consulting, Accenture, you name it. All super smart people. The difference in what 360 does as a small boutique firm is that we don't do it to you, we do it with you. So we're not sending, a bunch of super smart 20-something MBAs in there to give you data and tell you what you ought to do based upon what the whole market does in general. What we do is collaborate with clients to truly dig in and understand the secret sauce in their business, because every business has some magic in there that has gotten them to where they are. What we want to do is understand that. What's the DNA of that outfit? And then we want to marry that with sales best practices that we know from both our corporate life, but also from our consulting life of just seeing and working with lots of different companies. We have good perspective on what can work in unique situations. And then we blend that. So it's not us telling the client, it's us collaboratively coming to the decision that, as an example, that first foundational pillar, that go-to-market strategy. Where we tend to start with that is the ICP, the ideal client profile. So when we figure out who's ideal, like our very, very best customer, not the ankle biters that drive us crazy, that, ask for tons and deliver very little margin, and or at a loss. What we want to do is eliminate those folks and seek more of the high value clients that get us, understand the value we deliver, and are willing to pay for that value at an appropriate level. And so it becomes apparent sometimes throughout the engagement that, hey, we're dealing with the wrong customers a lot of times. And what would it look like if we eliminated those customers? Not because we don't like them, but they're just not good clients. And so can we offboard them, refer them to somebody else? Then that frees us up to do the type of work that is much more in our sweet spot and drives better margin. What you will find often is that while you reduce revenue initially, you then gain margin, which allows you to fund smarter decisions around your business so that you can then grow with the right kinds of customers in the following years.
So you're helping organizations find and focus on that sweet spot client because operationally they're able to work together. It's better for both organizations. You're able to help them really get what they're after as a salesperson, but likewise you're able to benefit more or be able to produce it at a higher efficiency.
Yeah, to use an old term that we don't use too much anymore, you want the win-win, right? If it's good for both, well, then everybody's happy, right? We often say that sales is one of the most honorable professions in the world, right? Maybe not the same as being a physician, a doctor, but we think it's honorable because if you really got to the root cause, if done right, and it's not always done right, we have lots of examples of it not being done properly.
Oh, sure.
But you're trying to understand somebody else's problem and challenge and provide a solution. What's more honorable than that, right? If you can solve a problem that allows them to be more successful, then they're happy to pay for that and they feel good about it, right? And everybody goes home happy and successful and making more money, right? Both businesses do better at the end of the day. And sales is really nothing more than problem solving. But you have to be willing to understand the actual problem. And that's what consultative sales should be, is really digging in and understanding the client's situation better and figuring out, can you help them? And if not, you have to say, hey, I've got to disqualify myself because I can't really help you. But I think I can help you by introducing you to somebody else who's better qualified to solve this problem for you. And good karma goes around and comes back. So
I'm with you on that. I like to say that our role is to help clients make good decisions in their own best interest. If we're not adding value, each interaction, then we're not doing our job. And the challenge is always helping people tell you what they need, so you can help them get there.
There you go.
Now, you mentioned the 4 areas. Is there one area that tends to be the big challenge for organizations the most, or does it vary greatly depending on each organization?
That's a great question. I would tell you that if you thought about strategy, most businesses, especially because the leader, and in the SMB space more so than in upper mid-market and enterprise, the owner operator is typically the driver of the business, and they do have some version of a strategy. So it's not always great, but they have something, right? That sales process is where it tends to break down. So as an example, you're very familiar that owner dependency is a big problem in small business. The owner wears multiple hats, so they can only commit a certain amount of time to each one of those hats that they're wearing. And sales, as an example, only gets its percentage of time. And so you're not following all the processes the way you should necessarily. And you definitely don't always have time to manage the process with other resources inside the company. So that brings out the second challenge, which is the organization and the people. So oftentimes, an owner operator of a business, and I'm an oversimplifier. I realize the devil's in the details, but when communicating, I try to keep it as high level as possible with folks. There's 4 stages to business. For $350, you too can register an LLC in the state of Texas and have a business. So it's easy to start one. So it's a little harder to build a business, but with sweat equity, hard work, perseverance, and just general knowledge of what you do, you can build a pretty successful business. Where it gets hard is then growing and scaling as the next phases. And that's where it becomes a challenge. So you have to start hiring people. And are you hiring properly? Do you know how to hire? Do you know the profiles of the people you want to hire? What are the trade skills that they need? What kind of a system are you putting them into and coaching them to so that they can be successful? Then are you developing that talent over time so that they continue to get better and you retain them because they feel good and they're continually being developed? So, and that's similar to any other functional area in a business, but it applies to sales too. So I would tell you the process and the people are the two components that are the trickiest and people probably struggle with the most.
Gotcha. So, and just for the record, I've never made a bad hire. So, I'm kind of not sure what you're talking about, but I'll play along as if I know.
So the doctor walks on water too. I love it.
That's right. The doctor has many skills in his head.
Yeah, we've all looked in the rearview mirror once or twice and gone, "Wow, why did I do that?" So,
yeah, I never let reality get in the way of a good story.
That's awesome.
So for you, I hear you talking about process. Where does that lead you? When you talk about process, what does that look like for you?
Sure. So for us, we have a very defined process, but we also, so we try to eat our own dog food, right? It's easy for us to then think about how we do it and what's unique about our business when we then work with clients. And process. So if you thought about sales process, any of us can Google sales process and go find a sales funnel and 1,000 different photos of that and what it looks like and what's top of funnel. And then, at the bottom of the funnel, you have a client. Great. And there's generic stages there, but those stages kind of become unique to a given business. So professional services versus a manufacturing versus a trades service shop, like say, general contracting or electrical, whatever that is, their steps are different, right? And so we think of it in terms of stages and steps. And for us, there's really 3 funnels, not one. So that top of funnel, we kind of consider its own funnel, which is more marketing driven, although it can be sales driven as well. But it is, how do you take a lead to a prospect to kind of an opportunity? And once it's somebody you are confident you want to do business with because you've qualified them, then we put it in the deal cycle funnel, the traditional funnel we all think of. And there are stages and steps that need to happen, right? So you can put things into buckets. And within each bucket, there are things that should happen, and there's things that we need to know, and then things we also need to share, and things we need to mutually agree to. And so for us, that process becomes, how do we get into a particular stage in the sales process? And then what are the things that need to happen? And as a sales organization, what are we responsible for? And part of that responsibility might be coordinating, communicating, checking with our operations team, our planning team, whatever that might be, depending upon the type of business. So what are those things that have to happen? And then what's the mutually agreed to next step with the customer to then move to the next stage? So again, I tend to think in terms of outlines, which is also how I write because it's how I think. So I don't do things paragraphically, but I have these, stages and then steps and tasks of things that need to happen, questions that need to be asked and answered for that mutual understanding for us to solve a problem and then be able to present what that solution is. And so it can be very detailed. And I think that the importance of that is understanding you don't have to check every single box, but you do need to follow the process because, as you well know, when you skip steps, bad things can happen. Doesn't mean they will happen, but they can happen, and nobody wants that, right?
Yeah. There's definitely a reason pilots have a flight checklist is they want to minimize that opportunity for bad things.
Absolutely.
So how do you document that process?
Well, that's a great question. So it used to be we did it very manually. So we're using AI like a lot of businesses are. A hot topic in today's world. You guys, I guarantee, I mean, I know that you all use AI, but I guarantee you with
I'm
your
not even sure
client.
what that is.
I think the doctor's playing possum on me here. So we record a lot of our meetings now. We obviously, when we're doing Teams sessions, we're a 365 shop. And so we leverage Teams a lot and we record those, which gives us great readbacks, takeaways, action items, all that good stuff. So it allows us to document. We can run those transcripts through. So it allows us to do a really good job of documenting. And so we have built our own portal, 360. We've got multiple agents in there to do a variety of different tasks for us. And we continue to refine and revise those to make it even better for our clients as well as for ourselves, right? So in today's world, it's much, much easier to document what all that is and then package that into that playbook that we discussed earlier so that the client has a deliverable that kind of becomes their sales methodology and Bible, so to speak, which then we want to lay into their CRM, which is part of that execution pillar. Right? What are the tools that you use to track, measure, monitor, and then manage the business and be able to make smart decisions because you have good data that informs what those decisions should be.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, it can't, I guess the playbook can't just be a, fancy binder that nobody reads.
That's exactly right.
It's got to be.
And that's where CRM comes into play. Yeah.
It's got to be part of the DNA and stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
It's amazing, just all the, people talk about AI all the time. I think pretty much every single podcast I've done, somebody has brought up AI in some fashion and form in, their conversation. Where do you feel that's taken you guys, or what's, aside from the great teams, notes and those kinds of things. What's next for you guys with AI and your application of it in sales?
Sure. No, it's a great question. We are, we've dabbled like many have when, OpenAI first brought chat to the market. That's most of our first experiences, right? So although all of us have leveraged AI, in my corporate career, many of the systems and tools we use in today's world have AI embedded and a lot of people just don't even realize it, right?
Sure.
So for us, it was doing simple tasks, right? Like one of the things we would help clients with is their outreach campaigns, right? Which is kind of a little bit of a marketing function, but salespeople without a big marketing department can certainly do emails out to their prospects and clients. Mm-hmm. And so we would write sequence email outreach campaigns and leverage AI to assist with that, never using the first output, revising and then editing on our own. So simple things like that, using the AI tools to record calls, that's gotten way better than it used to be, right? With better transcripts, very defined action items and takeaways, and some are better at packaging that than others, which allows us to then rerun that. So one of the key learnings that I've had, and most of us at 360 that are trying to push forward with AI, is the iterative process. So taking the output, refining it, maybe running it through a different tool. So we're using 4 or 5 different tools, right? Because we're a Microsoft shop, we use Copilot and it's embedded in most of what we do, but we use Perplexity, we use Claude, we use Chat, we use Gemini, right? So there's a variety of tools and some are better at others. Some do better deep research. And so running it through multiple agents with multiple tools just continues to make the results better. It's been one of our key learnings, and that's what we're sharing with clients. And so we've built our portal, that's safe for our clients, so their information isn't shared. And we're trying to help them understand how to do those same things, right? Because we get asked the question constantly, like, well, how, what do you think of AI? It's like, well, I think it's great. I think it's can be a little scary. It's scary to start. Mm-hmm. And Chris was telling me, I haven't read it, but he had read a report the other day where like 50 of the top AI experts in the world all got together kind of in a consortium to talk about where it's going. And there's some fear that, it's getting smarter. Like they're not always able to track its thinking. So as you know, you can look and see how is it doing its work and getting to where it's trying to get to. There are times when its thinking is abstract and there's no logical reason why it's thinking. So it's teaching itself, which is sort of what generative AI will do, right? So there's a possibility down the road that we may have to shift a little bit, but at the current pace, everybody's adopting and turning, especially those repetitive tasks. It can just make everybody's lives so much more efficient. You still have to be smart enough to prompt it and guide it. And that's where I think people shouldn't be afraid, because you still have to use your brain.
Yeah, I mean, several of the founders got together. Some of the founders and leaders of AI got together and wrote kind of a Hiroshima bomb type of letter to everyone, basically saying, hey, the AI is great, but it could be end of existence, an extinction letter kind of thing, that we need to make sure that we have guardrails and safety and all of these kinds of things, because it has... Unfortunately, we recently repealed the executive order for that, kind of some of those guardrails. So it's back to being a little bit of the wild, wild west. But I think that's the thing for organizations. They just need to be safe and, know what they're exposing in intellectual property and securing their stuff and, kind of protecting themselves.
Absolutely. And that's where I would tell everybody in your audience, keep talking to the doc, because those are things that you need to understand. That's beyond, my level of, I'm not researching AI at that level the same as you would be. And so, yes, make sure you're talking to an expert to really understand the impacts to your business and how are you safe, secure, protecting your assets, especially your IP, right?
Yeah, data governance is, now that everything's interconnected, is taken on a whole new level of just how you... not just how you secure your information, but even how you archive information, delete information, all of those kinds of things, because, your data is so important for your AI to be good. Bad data makes for bad AI. I sound like Frankenstein's monster.
Well, it's the same. It's the good old fashioned garbage out. I'm a big Frankenstein fan. Come on. Very entertaining.
Yeah. Well, like young Frankenstein. But anyways, so what's next for you guys in the sales world? Obviously you're using AI. Are there new trends or new things that organizations need to be mindful of?
Yeah, I think so. I think, to me, what's important for all organizations is you need to be growing, right? And that's really not new. It's just that people forget that if you're not growing, you're dying, you're shrinking, right? Because even if you're maintaining your business, somebody else is growing in the market. So you're now technically kind of losing share, right? So growing is important, unless, of course, it's a lifestyle business. That's a totally different thing. But if your intention is for your business to succeed and continue to grow, you need to be putting effort into that, right? So, and finding out how to win as an organization is important. We tend to know what winning looks like operationally because we can produce more of a product. We can have fewer defects, longer mean time between failures. Just think about all the different ways operationally businesses win, having no downtime, those types of things. In sales, it's usually kind of easy to understand how to win at the end of the day. But what people don't think about is how to win early as a leading indicator, which is what then drives the lagging indicator of revenue growth and margin growth. And I think that's the big missing link for most, especially small to mid-sized businesses, is creating that culture of winning, right? So Chris likes to say, and I've never liked to say it because it sounds so harsh, but winners win and losers lose. So it's a tough saying, right? But what it means, it is, but what it means at the end of the day is if you're winning the small battles, you'll win the war, right? It builds confidence. And if you're losing, it's just, the little things aren't working out, you're going to lose the war. It chips away at your confidence. And it's like anything. It's like sports, right? When you play with confidence, you just play better, right? The game kind of comes to you. And when you're not playing with confidence, you press. And when you press, you're not loose and it just isn't natural. And so we really try to help clients focus on how do you win every day? And how does every person on your team win every day? And I just think that needs to be the culture. And so it's little things like, did I have a couple of really great calls today? Well, that's winning inside the day. And then those great calls lead to a demo, leads to a meeting and a solutioning, a discovery session. So all those little wins build to good business for both parties. So figuring out how to win all the way on the early side of that cycle is important, not just winning at the end of the day with an order, right? So I think that's important. And just knowing that professionalizing your sales organization is paramount to the growth of your business. So here's another one, right? So I'm a lifelong revenue generator. And so it sounds awful, but nothing happens until something gets sold.
Sure.
So you can't service a customer. So it sounds egotistical, and it kind of is, but sales is paramount. It is the tip of the spear of the business. So without going out and winning clients for everybody else to then service and take care of and do the receivables for and provide customer service for and just all those other functional things, well, you don't have a business because somebody, whether it's the owner operator or the sales team, has got to go out and drive business. And so doing it professionally with an eye towards doing it the right way so you can grow appropriately to support the rest of the business is just paramount. I just, I want people to think about it that way, not because they need to have us help them with it, but just do that on your own, right? Just have a solid professional approach to your sales the same way you would any other part of your business.
So what's your message to organizations? If you're really trying to impact them and coach them into the mentality that the devil's in the details, that you've really got to hyper focus on small things to achieve big things. How do you coach that to your clients?
That's a great point. I would so I use two things. One, there's a book. It's an older book, but it's a great book. What got you here won't get you there. So, and simply put, that's true of all of us,
sure, personally
and professionally, right? So I've been married for a long time.
Me too.
Yeah. There's pros and cons, right?
Wait, there's pros? She hasn't told me any of those yet.
Yeah. I'm not even going to go there.
Sorry, I'm going on married 30 years. I don't even know what it's like to be single.
Yeah, I'm 29 as well, right? With my wife for 33 years. So we dated for 4 before we got married.
I mean, but for the record, I have no game anyway. So,
well, yeah, that's just it. I got lucky. I'm married out for sure. So, but what, the expectation is that I always have to work on myself, right? We do as people the same as we do as a business. So that's one. So what got you here won't get you there. Just because you're successful, there's no guarantees for what comes next, right? And then because I am a sports enthusiast, we all need coaches. We all need people to help us be better. Even if you're you're Usain Bolt, you're the fastest human alive. Well, he had coaches, even when he was the world record holder, to help him continue to get better, right? And that's just the reality of it. We all need coaches. My son, who's at college right now, he's my youngest. So I have 2 older daughters. He never wanted to do lessons when we would go skiing, and he's a boarder, right? He did when he was younger, but he doesn't want to now. And I'm like, well, I want to take lessons because I want to get better at certain things when I'm on the mountain. And he's like, I don't need that. I'm like, the best people in the world have coaches. Why wouldn't you want to take a lesson and learn how to be better, right? And so helping people break that barrier. No, I'm good. I know what I'm doing. We can all be better. We should all be lifelong learners. And, I think that's one of the most, forgotten inherent skill sets that we can apply as humans is intellectual curiosity. And so I really speak to that a lot with clients to help them think, not just around sales, but around everything. How can I get better? How can I learn more? and do all those little things a little bit better.
Yeah, that's definitely a real danger in our business. When we interview and hire, one of the things that we do is we do an extended disc profile, which kind of shows behaviors. So we look for people who are behaviorally curious, because they're more likely lifelong learners and those kinds of things. The danger of our business, like you said earlier, is that if you're not getting smarter, then you're getting worse.
Yes.
The pace of innovation these days is so incredibly fast that every single day things are different, and there's other options, and there's disruptive technology, and it's really dangerous if we're not always trying to learn.
Yeah, Moore's law went out the window years ago, and that's only applied to other things too, right? Not just the processing capability, but it's crazy. Yeah, if you're not getting better, you're getting past. So.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is Abraham Lincoln said something like, "If you give me 5 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend the first 4 sharpening my axe." And,
we do sharpening the saw with every client.
Yeah.
We actually force them to create time. That's what they do, is they focus on just a little bit of time getting better. And we apply that also in the process of selling with planning and prep. So if you're going to do a call, you should do just a 15-minute planning and prep session with the team. If it's just you, it's just you. But just, do you have all your stuff together? Do you know what you're talking about before you go in?
I told my wife that I read more in a week than I did in a semester in college. And unfortunately, she said, well, I knew you in college. That didn't sound that impressive.
Yeah, you have a really similar barriers to me.
She's formed her opinions of me off of stupid things like, I think I was taking one final, and I said, "Oh, I gotta hit the bookstore." And she's like, "What for?" And I'm like, "Oh, I gotta buy the book so I can get ready for this test."
Yeah, I don't remember buying the books very often. I did the summaries. Yeah, I'm dyslexic, so I really never enjoyed reading. I started doing books on tape is when I actually found out I wasn't a total dummy. So
yeah, I read a lot growing up, but I always read. I hated reading the stuff that they assigned to me. I always read other stuff, and so I'd read like 15 books. But I wouldn't read the one that was that we needed to for the course. So.
Yeah, the assignment book. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, if I ever bought a book, it was only the ones that was used from the bookstore that had all the stuff highlighted that was important. So
aside from the details, having the process down, those kinds of things. What else are you advising your people, your clients, to get ahead in the sales game?
Well, I would say the other thing that, especially once we've engaged with somebody, here's something we learned. So again, lifelong learnings. Working with clients years ago, we would do these really great engagements, put together wonderful systems. Everybody was super excited and executing and seeing improvement. And then we'd be like, "Okay, man, you guys have graduated. This is awesome. Good job." Maybe we would hire a new head of sales to come in because they didn't have the right person on staff. And then we'd touch base with them sometime down the road, see them at an event locally, and, "Hey, how's it going?" "Well," so here's what happens, right? You set them all up and they're cruising down the road and everything's great. Then they just sort of slowly veer off the path a little bit, right? And so we started to do, and we built this thing called the Sales Acceleration Framework that allows us to stay engaged on like a quarterly basis, just doing check-in, review strategy. How are we to our goals? We set goals. So if you thought about the EOS model as an operating system for business, we do a version of that. It's patterned after EOS because we're big fans as a quarterly engagement, but just for sales, not for the whole business, right? And so are you staying on track with what you're doing? And so whether you leverage something like that as a tool or not, even on your own, it's make sure that you're doing quarterly reviews, make sure that you're staying on track. Are you setting good targets? Are you hitting those targets? Do you have to adjust, because market conditions have changed, competition has changed, what have you? But just have a process not just your sales process, but then your review process, and then do your annual planning, with good information, good data, because you've been checking through it every quarter and making sure that you're on track to succeed with whatever your BHAG is. And then, kind of your 3-year, then your annual goals, and then quarterly so it's a stair step, right? Again, very process focused. So each step leads to the next step.
Got it. So if you're trying to keep the sales boat on track, you can't just if you're traversing the ocean, you can't just start off once, do your view, and then get there. You have to make minor course corrections all along the way to
absolutely
be efficient in your journey.
Yep, there you go.
Got it.
You nailed it.
Well, I am a fake doctor, so I don't like to brag.
Well, I am not a doctor, but I have slept at a Holiday Inn Express once.
Wow. I am in awe, my friend.
I actually used that joke with my cardiologist recently, and she's like 20. It was completely lost on her. So I got the look of blue hair, right?
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. Don't feed the animals.
True.
So what's next in sales? It sounds like you guys have a very structured approach. You're very disciplined. You embrace the science of measuring and managing, and postmortem. Making sure that you're on track. What's next in the sales game for you guys?
Yeah, for us, I think it is continuing to evolve how the technology enables good process. And the thing that we don't ever want to lose touch with, because we're all so tech driven in today's world, is the human component of it. Because sales is this magical combination of art and science. And so the art piece of it, the nuance, the understanding of deals, that's where we actually have a ton of fun with building the systems and the process, but then coaching people to recognizing and seeing kind of the playing field, right? So, and understanding the nuance of how to deal with clients and all that. And so that's something we're looking at ourselves and saying, hey, we want to make sure that we keep that front and center, along with all this tech stack that is paramount to efficiencies and getting scale, et cetera. We all get very enamored with the technology, and that's great, but there's also the human element of it, which you can never replace. And quite frankly, that's fun for me. That's what I did my grad work in. And so to your point, whether it's DISC, we use predictive index, culture index, Colby, there's lots of them, but we like using those tools to also help people understand their behaviors, their clients' behaviors. And in today's world, I think that's a little bit of a lost art, is the soft skills necessary in business in general, but most especially in sales, because it is still largely in B2B sales. There is a people component to it, right? We are transacting with other people. In retail, in B2C, it can be all automated. It can be done electronically, right? But it can't be in business. And so we want to keep an eye on that.
Yeah. It's same with us. We happen to work on technology, but the technology is only there to support people. So we're really in the people business. It just happens that the tools everyone is using are computers and technology and applications and so forth.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, we've kind of let me think about this. We've kind of explored the playbooks and the pitfalls, people, performance. If you had to package one powerful, practical piece of parting wisdom, is that enough piece for you?
Yeah, find a way to win.
What would be your parting wisdom for us?
Yeah, find a way to win every single day, right? Listen, we all want to feel good. That's, as humans, we want to feel good. We don't want to feel poorly or crappy or unsuccessful. So find a way to win. And there's lots of ways to do that. So think about your metrics. What are leading indicators? Find a way to win, because winning is fun and losing sucks.
Yeah.
And so find a way to win every single day. And then that builds you for the next day. And if you can just do that, you'd be amazed what feeling good and feeling confident will do for your business, right? Even as a salesperson, your business is your turf, your territory, your quota, your assigned accounts, whatever those are. Find a way to win every day, right? And take joy in success and celebrate those wins. And you'll just start doing more and more of that. And it just snowballs from there.
Yeah. No employee, no person gets up in the morning and goes, "Oh, I really want to suck today." You know,
No, they don't.
I really want to have a really, really bad day.
Yeah, and if I find those people, I run. I do not want to be around those people. So.
Now, aside from your big takeaway, are there any other little prescriptions or other things that you tell people or that people should take away from our conversation today?
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, we've talked a lot about the systems and the tools. One of the things that you use all those tools for is metrics. And so figure out what your metrics are. Everybody should know the numbers in their business, right? Most owners, I find, do know the numbers in their business, but make sure that everybody else knows the numbers in your business. Like, what's important for you to, do you need to make some number of these things today? Do you need to make some number of calls as a salesperson? Do you need a certain number of meetings? What is it you need to do? And just know your numbers, because if you know your numbers, you know whether you're winning or losing.
Sure.
It's a scoreboard, just like sports, right? So we have to have that, that scorecard to tell us, are we on track to achieve our goals? And, it's just like, going back and figuring out what those little things are in the front end of the sales process. So what are those numbers that build to orders and revenue and profit for the business? And you'll know, you can literally just do the math and break them down. And just say, okay, if I need to generate $1 million and my average deal is worth 100,000, well, I need 10 of those. And so if I close 20%, well, I need 5 proposals to get to the one. So you just start breaking it down, and then you track, measure, and monitor those way early metrics. So know your numbers.
So is there any my audience really love things that are free. Are there any free things or guidance links, book recommendations you have for them?
I'm going to give you an old but a good book. New Sales Simplified is a really good, easy read book. There's a specific thing in there that we leverage with all of our clients called the sales story. So there's like a chapter and a half dedicated to the sales story. Kind of replaces a pitch. Not a fan of pitching. I like the sales story concept a lot better because it puts the client at the center of the conversation, not pitching what's great about us. So it takes us out of the conversation and puts them at the middle.
Is that
so? That's a good book. It kind of, yeah. Story brand is a marketing version of the same. This is written by a marketing guru, but it's kind of talking about sales as a whole.
Gotcha.
But yeah. Okay. So it's a good book. There's a gazillion books out there. It's just an old favorite that we always kind of go back to. And yeah, feel free if anybody wants to reach out to me. Some of those metrics are all in a report that I have from Sales Acceleration that we help generate. So it's a survey of almost 5,000 business owners, most of them in the U.S. It's North American based, but over 90% are U.S. based businesses, small to medium size. So $1 million to $100 million is actually the category of businesses. And be more than happy to share some of the details and data that comes out of that, because it would be germane to the audience, right? So more than happy to share that.
Well, if our audience wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Oh, just drop me an email. I like a lot of people, I'm compulsive with my email. So I'm always on it. Because the doctor is important, this is on mute. But yeah, I'm constantly reading email, whether I'm in front of the computer or on my phone or tablet. So Joe at 360consultingdfw.com. We have to put the DFW at the end of it because, believe it or not, there's more than one 360 consulting in the world.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a whole bunch of Fulcrum groups that came on after me. So sometimes I get confused.
Yeah, it's surprising. So yeah, I went to LinkedIn and like there's people that work for us that I don't even know because there's other 360 consultings and LinkedIn kind of occasionally blurs them together. But yeah, just drop me an email and more than happy to touch base and respond and schedule time to chat. Conversations are always free. So, and we love sharing information. It's we give away more advice than we charge for. That's for sure. So.
Well, awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time today. It was really, really great to sit down and chat a little bit about something that, as a consultant, I don't think about or talk about as much. I'm probably falling into that category of probably not a very good disciplined salesperson because I'm so much more on the consultative side and general management side of things. But appreciate all you had for us today, and I'll make sure and include your number in our link in our show notes and all those kinds of things.
Okay.
For myself, if you had a question or conversation or want me to put you in touch with Joe, you can also reach out to me, the doctor at fulcrumgroup.net, as well as my LinkedIn profile. And wow, what a great day! That's kind of my wrap on our conversation today. If your head's spinning with ideas, you're not alone. We kind of covered a lot of ground from missing sales playbooks, holding SMBs back to, how AI isn't the future, it's the present. Joe's taking advantage of it. And, most of us are already a little bit behind. He kind of reminded us that it's not so much, the sales charisma, your sales superstar, it's clarity, it's process, and it's purpose. And that's really kind of how things line up with how we see technology at Fulcrum Group. You're following the same principle. It's not just the run, but, driving your business forward. So without further ado, Joe, any parting last thoughts?
Hey, everybody, make it a great day out there. Go find a way to win.
Awesome. Well, make it a great day. And if this episode sparks some new thinking, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, subscribe to Talk to the Doc podcast, wherever you prefer your podcast. And that way you'll never miss out on a next humorous anecdote, story, or insight from somebody else. Thanks to everyone for listening. And until next time, the doctor is out. Thanks for watching.